Genuine sports betting tips are hard to come by, so after 30 days of intense scrutiny, I'm about to reveal my findings for one of the hottest tipping services right now. I've reviewed a few of the biggest names in the past and uncovered some deceptive practices. So when I see results like this over an extended period, I'm immediately curious. It just seems too good to be true. With a claim of £1,114.70 profit, betting at just £10 per point over the last 3 months, I wanted to dig deeper and answer just one question. Are these sports betting tips legit, or is it all just smoke and mirrors? Let's find out. To kick things off, I signed up for a 3-day free trial on Thursday the 22nd of August. I thought that within 5 minutes, the usual tipsters' tricks would have appeared, such as manipulating their picks after timing prices that weren't actually available, hyping up winners and quietly deleting those losers, the usual kind of stuff. But they didn't. In all honesty, it wasn't what I expected, which is why I've documented everything I did for this video, and also so it's easy for everyone watching to understand. As always, I fired up Excel and started to record the date, time, selection, advised stakes, BSP and tally of the tips running profit. The sports betting tips that I'm talking about are from a tipster called Insider Edge Bets. I'll leave any references and links to the various spreadsheets in the description down below. After signing up via the website, I was granted with access to a private Telegram group. The tips were published directly into that group. Hopefully they don't mind me sharing a few of these on the screen here now. Now timing is crucial during this process, so I downloaded the Telegram app on my phone and on desktop just to make sure I could get instant notifications the moment that they were released. But why is this important? Because before I start putting real money down, I wanted to confirm that the advised prices that they were suggesting were actually available. Inaccurate pricing is one of the oldest tricks in the book. A lot of tipping services post out of date or false prices or special boosted offers that aren't actually available to everyone. It's a deceptive practice that's sometimes used because when you arrive at the bookmaker's odds, you can't get what was advised and your value bet is anything but. Unfortunately, a lot of tipsters get away with this sneaky trick because the broader public don't usually realise what's going on or how crucial the price is for the tipster's overall profit record. Now, immediately I noticed that the Telegram app notifies users if a past post has been edited and when, which was a good sign because it keeps information honest and clear. By day 3, the free trial was over and there'd been a total of 10 tips posted. I caught every selection within a minute or so of it being posted, excluding one of them, and to my surprise, I could get the prices advised, and quite easily. Typically, each bet was advised at a price that was available with at least 2 or 3 different sports betting companies. On one occasion, I noticed that both Bet365 and 888 were offering a price half a point bigger than the service had actually quoted. I've no idea why they didn't list the tip at the best price, but it was a promising start. Perhaps surprisingly, throughout this experiment, I did notice that Bet365 didn't always have the best prices, but more on that in a moment, because at this point, there was a problem. 3 days and 10 tips isn't enough to make a fair judgment. And it wasn't obvious to me how they were making these selections. Although I did notice something which I'll explain in a second. Of the 10 tips that were posted, 4 won and 6 lost. However, rather frustratingly, the advised stakes meant that the tips were only just in profit. Several of the losers had been advised at 2 points each. Now historically, this is just my luck that the tips with the highest stakes lose and the tips with the lowest stakes win. We've all been there, right? The overall profit and loss was £43 when betting at £10 per point. But I needed more time to make my mind up because 3 days and 10 tips is an incredibly short sample. It could have just been luck. So it was time to pay £25 for the month subscription. From the tips they were posting and some of their comments, it would seem that they clearly understood the importance of value betting odds. This phrase, short-term fluctuations and long-term profit, stands out in particular. You see, some might view it as a ploy to keep people subscribed for longer, but mathematically it's completely right, even if they are getting insider information. Now, so everyone understands on the same page here, with sports betting tips, money is only made if the tip's value is greater than its chance of winning. Otherwise, over a longer term period, results will inevitably even out in line with their actual chance and break even. Or worse still, the bookies' margin will ensure that we lose. This is exactly why bookies make so much money. They calculate the bet's true value and then include a margin in their price, making them a profit. Short term, the bookies' results fluctuate, but inevitably they make a longer term profit. So the point is simple. Successful tipsters must do the complete opposite. To add, this is why good tips are always a smaller price on betting exchanges when the event starts. It's what's commonly referred to as beating BSP, an abbreviation short for Betfair starting price. I'll compare these tips to the BSP in a moment because by day 14, things were starting to heat up. A total of 51 tips have been posted at this point. Now, most of these bets were for the outright win, although some were each way and the occasional double cropped up too. All tips were for racing, although I did notice that there's some Fantasy Premier League giveaways for members inside their Telegram group. Over this time, I noticed that regularly there were warnings that a tip was due to be posted soon. So it was kind of like a pre-notification notification. Now, it would be quite ridiculous to claim that the bookies are following such a small tipster, but it did seem like they were aware that the price would shorten shortly after they posted it. I can only presume that the tipsters were actually backing these selections to fair stakes themselves. We all know about the problems with bookmakers penalising winners, following their bets, limiting stakes and restricting accounts. It made me wonder if this was the motivation for becoming a tipster instead of just backing them winners themselves. Now, of the 51 tips that had been posted so far, 17 won and 34 had lost. The biggest price winner was at 10 to 1. Again, to level staking at £10 per point, profit stood at £204.50. A great result at this point, but I couldn't quite work out how they were picking these tips. Looking at all of these tips over the last 6 months, which I was now starting to believe, there was no clear pattern. Short-term prices, medium prices, higher prices, each way bets, and even the occasional double. The majority of tips were advised at 0.5 and 2 points each, although rarely there was a 2.5 point nap. For those that are unaware, nap is a tipping term short for Napoleon, meaning your best bet of the day. Now, companies like Bet365, William Hill and Betfair were the most quoted prices, although Oddschecker frequently showed the same prices on other brands like Betfred and Paddy Power. Fast forward to day 25, and I decided to look more carefully at how these tips compared to that all-important BSP, because if I was able to back them at BSP, then there was a good chance of getting more money done, bearing in mind I'm restricted almost everywhere. Now, with 100 live tips now recorded, the sample was a reasonable size and I was getting a clear picture. I noticed at this point that some of the prices were changing by quite a lot after they were posted. It was almost as if the bookies were suddenly reacting to large bets going down. Now, I've never said it about a tipster before, but I was starting to wonder, are they actually getting inside information? It's impossible to say for sure, but these sudden shifts, sometimes of a point or more, felt like more than just guesswork. After all, over the last 30 days, it happened a lot. Triple Eight seemed to react slower than the rest, leaving the most value on the table. So let's look at some critical analysis of the prices compared to Betfair's exchange starting price over the whole month. In total, there are 109 tips at a range of price points recorded throughout my analysis. The shortest price tip that was advised won at a price of 64 on day 26. Now, the biggest tip advised also won at a price of 28 to 1 on day 18. On average, each tip's price was around about 9 to 2. Now, of the 109 tips advised, 38 were winners, leaving 71 losers. On day 18, a huge double at 28 to 1 was landed, which drastically skewed the overall results. It was obviously a bit of a blinder, but in the interest of fairness, and so I could make a strong comparison to the BSP, I've excluded doubles and each way bets from this following analysis. The average Betfair starting price was 3.6 in decimals, which is just over 5 to 2 in fractional odds. Now, bearing in mind that 38 of the tips won and the spread between the prices it indicates a fair test. As always, the BSP is pretty accurate. As a side note, if you guys want to see it, I could also do a follow-up video in another 30 days time just to increase this sample. Let me know if you want to see it in the comments down below. So the average price advised by Insider Edge Bets on exactly the same tips was a massive 4.7 in decimal odds, just over 7 to 2 fractions. Meaning that over the last 30 days, they generated a whopping 65-point profit. Now over this sample, they did manage to marginally beat the Betfair starting price, but they dramatically and repeatedly beat the bookies' pricing, and the selections were reliable and realistic at honest prices that were actually available. I didn't think I'd say this, but they are really providing value here, unlike some of the previous sports betting tipsters I've analysed in the past. Check out this video here and see what happened.